right, so starting with our section 2 part, which will be this section right here, we see that again, display flex. By now I believe you should be familiar with this, and I encourage you teach others so that you can actually understand it. So we give it a flex direction of a column, okay, and then we also give it a row gap, okay, and I know you now know what all this means based on the concepts that you have covered before. This is the part that you want to start targeting. Before we do that, let's do this. We give this a background color, or maybe cyan, and then we give these stores a background color as well. So we have this part right here is the action part, okay, and then we have this part right here, which is the stores. So we start first of all with the actions part right here so that it appears like this. So we give it a border of 1 pixels, and then we give it a solid, then it's a variable of maybe it's gray 2, okay, and then we give it a display of flex. So let me ask you, what is the flex direction we are going to add? Because it's horizontal, so there is no need to add any flex direction, because by default the row direction is what will be used. And then we need to give it a column gap of maybe 8 pixels so that we have this nice gap right here. Then the other thing that we need to do is to justify the contents at the center, and then we also need to align items at the center. All right, and then we give it a padding. Okay, the vertical padding right here, padding, and then padding at the bottom. So you have 24 pixels, and then the horizontal padding, there is no need for horizontal padding. All right, and then we give it a font family of system 1. Okay, and then last thing that you are going to give it, I believe, is a font size of 14 pixels. Okay, so let's save this, and once we save it, we see this nice looking UI right there. So let's remove this. So we have that. Okay, so that is good. So now the last part for the section 2 action is this part right here, this link. Again, I believe you know this. So all you need to do is to target the action, then we actually target the specific A element. Okay, and then this one, what should we add so that we remove the underline? That's the first question. So I believe you know it's text decoration of none. Okay, then we give it a color of I believe it is link color 1, and then we give it a font weight of bold. Okay, all right, so it looks like that. So we just wrapped up this part. Okay, so I believe that's it, so we can remove that, and now we jump over to our stores part right here. Okay, so our stores, again, display flex should be a friend. So we have typed it so many times, so let's just type it once again. Display of flex, then flex direction, I know you know what it should be. It's going to be column, because it's the items, they are going to be vertically aligned. And by vertically aligned, I mean this section here is the instruction part, then we have the links to the stores right here. And I believe we can do this so that it's actually going to be easier for us to identify them. So we give this one a background color of maybe orange, and then we give this a background color or maybe green, okay, and then we save it. So we see the orange part is at the top, we see the green part is at the bottom, but if we remove this, we see they are horizontally aligned. So let's comment that back in. Then this part right here, the stores part, it should have a row gap, okay, a row gap of maybe 12 pixels. All right, so that's the part right here, the row gap, and then this, all these items, they should be aligned at the center. Okay, align items at the center. Then we now jump over to the instructions part. This will be like really easy part, so we just do that. And then the other thing that we are going to do is to simply give it a variable of system 1, and then the other thing we need to do is to add a font size, okay, and a font size of 14 pixels. So we save it, and it should look like that. We move over to our links. Yeah, these store links. The first thing that you are going to do, because it's a wrapper, this wrapper right here, let me do that. So this wrapper right here, it should have a display again of flex. Now we don't need to specify the direction. All we need to say is the align items at the center. So if we comment this out, we see that the App Store image goes to the top. So we need to align them at the center so that they will actually be at the center of their parent. Okay, I believe we have covered this before. All right, so we give it align item center, And then the other thing we need to add is this gap. So this one will be a column gap of maybe 6 pixels. And that's it. Okay, so the part that we need to add now is the styling for these images. These images, they are inside ahrefs. So we don't want them to have like maybe stylings based on the A element. So all we need to do is to, first of all, we say decoration, text decoration of none. That's the first thing. And then now we need to target the specific images, okay? And then we give them a height of 40 pixels. So that's it. So we can get rid of our backgrounds, which are helping us in the UI identification. And then that's it. So we jump over to our footer part. All right. Okay, so starting with our footer, we see it looks like really, it doesn't have much, but it has something. So we start by saying that it should have a display of flex. Flex direction will be column. All right, so we can actually do this. Let's separate them like this. We say, let's give them background color here, maybe cyan, and then this one, we give it a background color of orange. Okay. So we have them like that. We give it a line items, center, okay? So that simply pushes everything to the center. In this case, we now have things looking a bit more like this. And this is what we are actually going after, all right? Then we need to add the row gap. And the row gap in this case, maybe we can go with maybe 24 pixels. I think that's okay. Or maybe even, let's reduce it a bit. Maybe 20, yeah, that's okay. Okay, then the other thing that you need to add, you see like in this image we have a margin bottom, and this margin bottom is from the footer, so that we have that nice overflow that is there like in Instagram. So all we need to do is to add a padding bottom of maybe around maybe 64 pixels, and that will give us this overflow. Now we jump over to our footer links. Again, this links part is now what you need to focus on. This one, as you guessed it right, we give it a flex. You notice what happened? The gaps are collapsed. So in this case, this column gap is around maybe, let's say 16 pixels. Okay, and that's good. But let's do this. You see, when we resize this, there is this overflow. We don't want this overflow. Okay, what we want is to make sure that when we actually get to have an overflow, in this case, we want to wrap these items. So we are going to say flex wrap. Let's wrap. Okay, this one we give it a value of wrap. So you see it does the work for us. The items, they are actually collapsed onto the next line. Okay, that is good. Okay, now the other thing that we are going to do is to add a line items center, and then the other thing that we need to do is to also justify content center, so that these items, when they overlap, they are actually pushed to the center. But then because there is going to be another invisible column, that means we need to give it a row gap of, in this case, 12 pixels, and we see it's pushed to the bottom. All right, okay, so that is good. And now we get to style these ones so that they match how these ones look. We first of all have to remove the underline. We have to give them a color, okay? And we have to give them a font family. So as you guessed it right, we need to remove text decoration, give it none, and then we have to give it a font family of system 1, and then we need to give it a color of I believe it's we have a link color, yeah, link color. Then we need to give them also, I believe it's a font size, maybe this is around maybe 12 pixels, okay? And then we save it, and then we have this. Okay, that is good. One thing you have to note, we just targeted the footer links. We didn't target the specific elements. When you just target the parent, the overrides that are there implicit to the specific elements. In this case, an A element will have its default color of blue, and then it will always have an underline unless you specifically override them like that. Okay? All right. So we proceed, and we see that now we can remove this. And then when we save, we have something looking like that. So let's now move over to the footer language and copy. I always do this. I give one a given color, I give the other a given color, maybe purple, so that I can be able to know when I'm styling them. And then we give this one a display of flex, and then we give it a column gap of maybe this is around 24 pixels, and then we have them side by side now. So if we look at our HTML right here, we look for our language selector, we see that inside it, it has a select. So we need to target this select. We can target it by ID, like this, okay? Or we can target it from this parent. We can target it like this. So whichever works for you, you can go with it. But for this one, let's go with this option, okay? So we give it a color, and the color that you are going to go with, we give it maybe gray 5, okay? And then the other thing that we need to do is to simply remove the border. We give it border none, and then background color, okay, of transparent. So if you give something a transparent background, it will not have any background. And then we go cursor pointer, and then we have it like that. But you see, it really looks off, okay? It looks so off. So we increase this one, maybe grade 4. I think that's, yeah, it looks nice, okay? But then the other thing we need to do is to remove this focus. You see this focus that is there? So all we need to do, as you guessed it right, we take the state of focus, okay? And then we say that outline should be none when it's focused. And that is it. Okay, so we are done with that part right there. All right, so we continue on to our footer copy. This is the last part that we will be styling. And then our footer copy is really going to be like very, very straightforward, because there's not so much things. Let's remove this one. So we can simply target, maybe give it a font family of maybe system 1. That's the first part. We give it a font size maybe of 13 pixels. 13, I think it's too small for it. Maybe we can increase it a bit, or maybe to 14. Let's give it 14. And then the other thing we need to do is to give it also a color. And the color that you are going to give it is similar to that of the select, okay? This one. And that is it, okay? So we see that our design now, this one, it actually matches this. But there is one thing that we need to do, so that we move this element, this whole section here, the content part, we move it to the center of the web page. And all we need to do is to simply do this. We go all the way to the content part, and then we align self at the center. I want to position myself, okay, to the center of my parent. And that's it. All right. So when we expand this browser, we see that now our content is positioned at the center, and it really looks nice. Maybe you can reduce this gap a bit, the distance between the footer and the content, and then let's do it like here. So we can say this one as 64 pixels, and we do that, and then we see that. Okay, I think that's it. So with that, we can actually call this a session, and the next part now will be adding interactivity and adding these additional elements, as well as displaying them based on the user's input. Okay, so what you have learned, as usual, make sure that you find someone and you teach them, so that you can grow together. And always remember, you stop growing when you stop learning.